This is going to be a very nice representation for what is actually happening right now. Alright, to the 34%. It's 30% now that I'm not Smash Living Crap out. Subscribe and smash it so you guys don't miss out on more Isles content. So this is a pretty huge event. I actually want to talk about the breakdown for this because this gives a very interesting showcase into representation for some of the metagame that we're seeing here. So this was for the Shanghai station. There were 431 players present for this event. And, you know, for this being a powerhouse event, there were 85 tier elements in the top cut for this event. Yeah, I understand that after how many ban lists has this deck gone through, how many reductions of power have we had to dial back to get this deck to look even semi like powered down. And don't get me wrong, I mean, like, this format has definitely dialed back a lot of the power that we'd previously seen with tier. All right, like, that's pretty good to say at the end of the day, but that's a huge troublesome number when almost 20% of your entire tournament structure is tier. Now, second highest representation here is Sprite Tri-Brigade. Now, this basically is just, you're going to go through standard Sprite combo, and then at the very end, you're going to sprinkle just a little bit, and I mean just a little bit, of Shirag on the next turn. I think it's very interesting to see, you know, just the fact that for that deck being the second highest representation, like, it's still only like half the representation at tier, but like, people really do solidly believe in Sprite Tri-Brigade as a whole. Now, we also have Runic down here at a 6%. 26 players entered into this bad boy with Runic. That's how much people are believing in what this deck can actually do. And I'm starting to see that Runic has become a very strong anti-meta pick here just because of all of the aspects. Milling your opponent's random resources puts you in such an amazing position that your opponent's not going to know what to do. Plus, you know, skill drain, all reliable for sure. Definitely. I feel like your trap board is better than Labyrinth, and Labyrinth's supposed to be the best trap deck in the entire format, right? Well, Labyrinth coming in with only 20 in representation, getting beat out by the better trap deck, which is just playing Gozen Rivalry and, you know, all the other good stuff under the rainbow here to allow this deck the chance to play. But Labyrinth having a 5% representation, only 6 off from Runic here in overall representation. That's not much of a surprise there, considering, you know, how good Labyrinth has been doing as a generalized comparison. Now, something that has been really taking things by storm in the OCG has been Adamantipator, or what has been referred to as rock or earth good stuff, rock good stuff. Basically, you're going to use basically the Earth Toolbox. Block Dragon is a fantastic example here of the absurd levels of power that this deck still has going for itself. And don't underestimate the power of rocks just for the stupid good lines of play that this deck actually has. You know, it took this long for the OCG to really get the chance to experience Block Dragon, so that's really good. We also had 14 Kashtira. For as much as Kashtira has been, you know, dialed back in power, to see that 14 players out of 400 still believed in the deck enough to step up to the arena is really good. Now, your purely number here, you're going to look at and you're going to go, that seems really low from a lot of the other data that we've seen. Well, I do kind of agree with you. I'm actually surprised to see that we didn't have more purely players, but Exceed Encore just tears the deck apart. You know, watching the big cat get stripped of its materials and basically dial back puts your opponent in a really good position. Now, something that really caught my attention here was we have 13 Evil Twins. Where did that come from? I have not seen Evil Twins perform and do well at all in the OCG. And that really caught my attention here. I was like, wow, really? Like, Evil Twins of all things? We also have 12 Exo Sister decks. So basically you'll be using Aratama, Sakitama, maybe no Aratama, but you'll be able to use Sakitama for additional normal summons. Exo Sisters definitely stepped up its game a wee little bit here. And then, of course, only 11 Bysteel Synchro. Man, the OCG local scene has loved that deck. But it looks like for a higher level, you know, event here, it might not be seeing the crazy amounts of play that we were kind of predicting here. And then we have 178 other decks. So your competition level for this is very interesting, just showing that you have different option trees, different little things here kind of going on within the format. So the next question is what actually ended up topping this event? Edit Robbie here. Well, we have to edit in because we now have more info on the top cut for this event. So top 32 led you in to 13 tier elements, which is actually kind of interesting. Not really. It's obviously the most represented deck in the format. It's doing its thing. I think the craziest thing to me about all of this is, you know, the huge shift from the overall participation pie chart to add Emancipator down here, showing us that, you know, this deck is a monster. Like, Earth good stuff, it's Black Dragon is such an amazing card. Like, this really proves that, like, even in, like, the biggest diversity waves that you can possibly have, that this is still doing relatively well. Now, we also had two Thunder Bysteel, which I kind of think is interesting in and itself as well. You kind of get the chance to see, obviously Bysteel good stuff doing its thing, but Thunder Dragon Colossus kind of edging in to be a little bit of a monster themselves. We had one Dogmatica Shaddoll. What in the world is... I didn't think we would see that anytime soon. Machine, Earth, so basically Earth good stuff. We also had one Kashtira. Remember, from that pie chart, you know, how much this deck has been crippled. To see that this deck is still kind of coming up to bat here also is pretty impressive. We also had one Bysteel Super Heavy Samurai deck. Once again, you gotta love the fact that those pendulum scales are absolutely busted. They add so much to this deck, turns it into an entirely different monster. We also had one Ignister deck. Do keep in mind that some of these builds have started to cut the big Link 6, and they've started going down the firewall aspect of things, which is kind of interesting. Our Sprite Tri-Brigade deck here has been reduced to a smudge of its former self on this pie chart. We're down to 1 in top 32. We also had an Exosister, a Dragon Link, a Labyrinth, only one purely in the top cut for this event as well, which feels a little bit off to me, but I understand, like, your overall representation wasn't crazy for this. And then we had a branded Witchcrafter. What is a branded Witchcrafter deck, and how does that actually work? I find that, like, your entire top 32 shifting from that overall participation chart, though, this is crazy. Like, this is what diversity looks like in terms of a format, and that is so cool at the end of the day. You gotta love to see it. So, yeah, very, very happy to see this. And then you shift on over to your top 8 here, and of course, your biggest represented deck in top 8 was none other than Tier Elements. Can't really say I'm surprised about that. The fact that Tier just dominated this event in terms of your shift is pretty good. But your two challengers here were one purely and one Earth good stuff. So you had two relatively strong decks here actually kind of putting up a fight near the end of this big tournament, which really does say something. And I will have you know that Purely ended up going all the way to get second. Winning the event here was Tier Elements. Man, it must be nice to have Fairy Tale Snow in tier. The fact that you have so many foolish burial targets in this deck. Your Maximite, two Solic, one Meta Noise. Actually, seeing Meta Noise seeing play. It's interesting. Now, keep in mind, obviously, this deck gets to play the Shaddoll package. Oh man, Squamata, Dragon for resources. You do see that the Ishizu package is still being a monster in this deck. It's almost like it's not fair at the end of the day what it wants to do. And then we have our Purely deck here. Now, this is a very, very strong anti-meta deck. The fact that we're main decking Dimensional Fissure was probably one of the reasons why this build got the chance to make it as far as it did, because generic Floodgate removal is definitely going to be something that Purely is going to be able to really put up with. Also, I mean, once you put the big unaffected cat on the field, your opponent's going to be in such a bad position they don't see an Exceed Encore or a Kaiju in order to out it. And that's something that Tier doesn't really care too much about playing. And they just get kind of pressured out of the game at the end of the day. So, awesome to see that that Purely was doing well. And then, third place down here was actually Earth good stuff. So you're going to get a chance to kind of see what's going on here. You can definitely tell that the Vernal Sith package and the Ishizu cards are going to play a major, major part of this. Same thing with the Super Heavy Samurai scales down here. And then it's basically all of the Earth good stuff that you can kind of shove together in one deck is going to make a very strong showing for this deck. So what do you guys think about this breakdown? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.